Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil, Laird, here to do what I guess would be considered a re-review. Here's the thing, I spoke about this movie in the 30s, the episode 30s, somewhere in there, of our podcast. Currently we are at episode about 238, so this is obviously about 4 years ago that I actually reviewed this, Nightbreed, the director's cut. I spoke about it on the podcast, so I never actually did a full video review for it. That's what I'm doing this time, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up the actual covers down here. But I am going to finally talk on video about this movie. Here's the thing. When I did that review on the podcast 4 years ago or so, I did not really enjoy it. I had remembered loving the original movie when I saw it back when it came out. Of course, written and directed by Clive Barker. Horror maestro Clive Barker, some would say. And I enjoyed watching it the first time, and then for the first time I watched the director's cut before the podcast, and I did not enjoy it. However, this week I am going to be, as you guys may or may not know, I do horror comic book reviews on basically a bi-weekly basis. Every other week I do a new horror comic review. And so this week I'm going to review the 2-issue Hellraiser Nightbreed Jihad crossover comic. It's Hellraiser versus Nightbreed, and we just released our review and commentary for the first Hellraiser movie, and I thought, well, it's been so long since I've actually watched Nightbreed at this point, 4 years, that I need to rewatch it before I review these comics, which I'm going to be recording that review as soon as I'm done recording this review. So I did indeed do that. I rewatched the Nightbreed director's cut, and I'm here to say, you guys, I don't know what was wrong with me 4 years ago, if I watched it really late and was really tired, or if I just had a big chip on my shoulder or something. I love this movie again. Like, the first time I watched it, I loved it because I was a kid. I was in my, when I finally watched it, I was definitely like 11 or 12 or something like that. And I enjoyed the hell out of it because if you guys know me at all from the channel, you know that my favorite subgenre of horror is creature movies, monster movies, and this is one of the most. It possibly could be considered the epitome of practical movie monsters from the era in which it came out, and it is so good. And honestly, the monsters really, for the most part, hold up in this. And I just really dug the hell out of it this time. That's my overall thoughts on it. I'm going to break it down like we normally do our reviews. I'll talk about the story, the acting, the effects, the music, everything in turn. But yeah, outside of just really adoring this movie this time, the story is such where Boone, this character, I believe it's Aaron Boone, and he is finding himself having these dreams. The movie opens with a dream of all these weird humanoid creatures dancing in this weird cemetery area. And he wakes up and he's like having these weird dreams, and he goes to a psychiatrist that he has and talks about these dreams of these monsters in this place called Median that he keeps dreaming about, where these monsters supposedly live. And the psychiatrist is surprisingly interested in it. But basically from that point, we find out that Boone has a girlfriend by the name of Lori, but Boone finds himself drawn to this weird place in this cemetery. It's a place called Median, and it is actually a sanctuary for monsters, and he gets drawn there, and when he does, he runs across some of these creatures, including one called Peliquin, and Peliquin actually bites the guy. And the movie continues, and it turns out that there are sort of whispers among the towns surrounding Median about this place that no one goes, but no one really believes that it's this as weird as it actually is. And Boone ends up running afoul of a few different things and ends up dying. I don't want to spoil too much for you guys, but he does end up dying. It's not that far into the movie, don't worry. But he ends up coming back, and it turns out that he realizes he's part of what's called the Nightbreed, this race of creatures that is down below, and that happens about halfway through the movie, so I guess it's kind of a minor spoiler, but it's a very old movie, and it is pertinent to make sure it's a movie that's interesting for you to see. So he comes back as one of the Nightbreed, and then basically the story of the Nightbreed kind of gets out as a result of Boone's actions, and law enforcement and straight up hick judgment people, all the hicks in the town that decide to take the law in their own hands, they all go and attack Medellin, and there's this massive war in the back part of the movie that was really, really awesome. So that's the thing, like it's Boone finding out about this sort of society of creatures living underneath a cemetery, and one of the cool things is when he first finds it, he walks down and sort of starts walking through it. Actually, this might be a different part. I might be mixing up two parts, but either way, someone is down there walking through and seeing all the different crazy things. It is basically the horror version of the Little Monsters underworld for anyone that's seen Little Monsters, but not this movie for whatever reason. The whole underverse of, under the kids' beds where the monsters are, that was clearly sort of homaging Nightbreed. It must have been. I don't even know the strict timing of the releases of the two, but it was so similar, and this was just a straight up monster version of it. So there are humanoid monsters, there are straight up monsters, there are berserker monsters, and there's all kinds of cool stuff that are in the vein of Barker's other movie, Hellraiser, where, at the end of Hellraiser, there's the weird creature with the face on bottom that, is running down the hallway after Kirsty. There's creatures more like that in Nightbreed, and I absolutely loved it as a result. So the story is very engaging. It is a bit slow at times, so I kind of understand why I maybe fell asleep, or not even fell asleep, but why I felt a little bored maybe the last time I watched it, but I was totally engaged this time. I don't know what the difference was. Mindset can play a big difference play a big factor in how you feel about something that you're consuming pop culture wise, for sure. But yeah, I absolutely love the story in this one. And again, I'm not even spoiling a bunch. That's just the broad strokes of it, and it's so interesting and entertaining. Now, the acting is actually really good too. I enjoy Boone. He's a bit on the wooden side, but if you look closely, you could definitely see Boone and David Boreanaz, Angel and Bones. You could, from Angel and Buffy and Bones, they could be brothers for sure, just separated by about 20 years. It's really interesting that way. But so Boone is a good enough actor. He has a lot to carry, and he has a lot of weird emotions to go through. So he does his best, and I think he's entertaining enough. Laurie, his girlfriend, does a good enough job. She shows concern and wonder and fright, and so I really enjoyed her. All of the creatures were really cool. They played their little characters. Some of them were more over the top than others, but it was all super enjoyable. The Hicks and the sheriffs and the deputies, they were all appropriately over the top as well. So the acting, some might consider it a little bit, maybe on the B-movie side, but they all played their roles so well that, as hammy as they might have been at times, it all just gelled together very, very well in this film. And then moving on to the cinematography, directed by Clive Barker. It's going to be interesting to say the least, and it is. And there's some static shots where I would have appreciated some movement, but nonetheless, the reveals and the way he actually decides to show off Medellin and compare and contrast it to the way he showed off the human world, it's very well done and interesting to just watch from that standpoint alone. I really loved the cinematography of the movie, even though there were times that I again wish there was a bit more movement. Now, the effects, I have to obviously touch on the effects. I mentioned it briefly earlier, but the creature effects in this are almost 100% practical effects. I mean, it's at a point in which where the CG was only trying to enhance certain things. I mean, there's a point where the creature that the Nightbreed sort of worship and follow, Baphomet they call him, or Baphomet to some. He's this sort of in pieces creature, and there's lightning and electricity that kind of shoots down the limbs and kind of connects to him and stuff. That lightning effect is, old school CG effect, and it looks as such, but all of the practical effects, you just marvel. And I was watching this movie like, I can't believe how much effort must have gone into all of the different creatures. I mean, I'll get up close just so you can see what the back of this looks like. You can see a small sampling there. It's going to be a bit blurry, but look at that. That's Peliquin on the way right, and then there's other Nightbreed characters, including the porcupine girl in the middle there. And it's just the amount of time that must have went into just doing the makeup effects and then lining up the shots and everything like that. It's mind-boggling when you really think about it. This movie really is a horror masterpiece. Anyone that loves horror movies, especially in the vein and aesthetic of Hellraiser and things, Lord of Illusions, Barker sort of aesthetics, you would love Nightbreed. If you haven't seen it yet, you absolutely need to watch this movie. And then the music, I'm not even sure. I didn't have a chance. Let me sort of double check real quick. Now, another aspect of this movie that I absolutely have to mention that was super apparent to me as I was watching it, but for whatever reason I never made the connection before. The music in this is done by Danny Elfman. And it's not, Alice in Wonderland, overblown, been in the biz too long Danny Elfman. This is early Danny Elfman, Batman Returns era Danny Elfman. It is so similar that I was listening to it, I'm like, that's like very close to the Batman and music from the Batman. Not like the Batman theme, of course, but the score of those movies. It's this one and Edward Scissorhands and, movies like that. It is so apparent that Nightbreed was scored by the same person, and it is glorious. It sets a mood for this place, this city of monsters underneath a graveyard, and Danny Elfman thumping in the background, like really, really setting a mood. And then Danny Elfman thumping during the big war action scene between the monsters and the humans with guns. Like, so good. The music is unbelievable. Guys, this movie, I cannot glow and talk enough about how good this is. You absolutely have to get your hands on this movie and watch it for yourself. Come back if you haven't seen it, or if you have seen it, let me know in the comments down below. What do you think of Nightbreed? Are you as into it as I am? Did you wax and wane a little bit like I did in the middle there? Again, I couldn't tell you why I thought it was boring the last time I watched it, because man, I truly appreciate it now, and this might become at least a biannual, if not an annual tradition to watch this, because damn, the creature effects are just unstoppable. It's so cool. So let me know in the comments down below what you think of it. Have you seen the director's cut, or have you only seen the original? I'd be curious to know contrasting opinions, if there are any, regarding the two different versions. So let me know that in the comments down below as well. While you're down there, click the link in the description box for our Patreon. If you want to become a patron, you can support the channel a little more directly. And if you do so, you have the option to select a movie or a comic or a video game to review or do a commentary on, anything like that. All that is in that link down below. Thank you guys very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird, and remember, stay scared.